earlier during the war, the British government set up a system of tribunals who examined all of us and gave us ratings, A, B, and C ratings. An A rating meant you were immediately interned. You were suspected of being a Nazi. A B rating meant they had their doubts about you, but they didn't have enough on you to really put you away, so they put you under restrictions. And a C rating meant you were free to do whatever you wanted. I had a C rating and felt quite secure. But then came Dunkirk, and after Dunkirk, there was a lot of agitation in England to intern the lot. The captain was a gentleman called Harms, Lieutenant Harms, Naval Lieutenant Harms. We were the slowest boat in the convoy. We were not identified as Red Cross or anything like that. They fired 3 torpedoes. The first one missed, but the escorting vessel saw the trace and gave an alarm, and they began dropping depth charges. The second one, now here the accounts differ. My opinion is that it struck the ship, but it did not explode. I heard the impact, and I found later that these torpedoes were made by slave labor, and there was reports of having the slaves having sabotaged a lot of them did not explode. The third one missed again, and then the U-boat submerged.
Sydney turns out today to give a grand welcome to British troops on board HMT Dunera on what must be a truly historic occasion. It is the first time in 40 years that soldiers from the mother country have set foot on Australian soil.
Guard! General salute! Present! Hands!
Captain Weber is here, sir.
Sir. Do you need to remove your coat, Weber?
No, I'm quite comfortable, thank you, sir.
You're a Jew, aren't you, Weber?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, sir.
Oh, God damn it, man, this isn't an inquisition. Are you not a Jew, for Christ's sake?
Well, yes, I am Jewish, but not Orthodox.
All right, there's no need to be embarrassed. No, I just thought you had the right nose, a feeling for this kind of work.
What sort of work, sir?
Weber, sometimes certain decisions are made with the most patriotic of motivations.
Yes, sir.
And in spite of these motivations, mistakes are sometimes made.
That's quite true, sir.
Have you ever been to Australia before, Webber?
When I worked for the army, for the first time in my life, I met non-white people, you know. I mean, before that, in Austria they weren't any, in England I didn't meet any.
You mean non-Caucasian?
Non-Caucasian people. And I was very interested. I was curious, and I began to realize their problems, you know. There was a engineer in my group who was a civil engineer. He was a Texan. He was very short and had a loud Texan voice, and we instantly disliked each other. Well, we one day had to go on a field trip together with many other people from San Francisco by bus to Huachuca in Arizona. There was an army camp there. And all the way the man told racial jokes, and it was unbearable. And when we got off the bus, we walked into the BOQ where we were accommodated, and as we walked in, he told another nigger story, and a black officer came down the stairs, and I had all I can take. So I took him aside and said, look, if you use that word once more in my presence, I want to punch you out. And I could have, because he was much smaller than me. And we had heavy words, and he then denounced me as a nigger lover. This is now, you know, talking about 53 or 50, yeah, somewhere around there. And soon thereafter, I had my security clearance withdrawn, and then left the army job and went into private industry, and in 1956 opened my own consulting office. Well, in 54, 5 years after my arrival, I applied for citizenship and found that I was being investigated. And I really, this is conjecture, please understand that. Nobody ever explained to me why. But I talk a lot, and I got sort of sensitized to all these kind of problems, and found myself at a deportation hearing finally. I got hold of the Civil Liberties Union, who assigned me a lawyer, and we went to a deportation hearing at which this subject did not directly come up. But I was asked if I was an atheist, and my lawyer had objected, you know, this is unconstitutional, and I explained to the the hearing officer is both judge and jury, you know, there was a stenographer there, and I said if he'd like a theological discussion, I would be happy to have it, but he couldn't answer that simply, you know, this is a difficult, complicated question. And that took him aback, so he switched to other things like my tax returns and the fact that I had been to some Rosenberg meetings, which caused me a lot of alarm. That was a dangerous thing to do in those days. And the fact that I had made derogatory statements about political figures, and it went on and on. And finally, my lawyer, nothing happened for a long time, called him up and said that he wanted a transcript of the hearing, and they said, well, if you do that, that's going to hold up everything, but if you don't, I'll be able to tell you that he's been approved, and finally got my citizenship, so I never got a transcript of the hearing. But it was anxious days, you know. I started my business in 1956, and around 1965 or 66, I became aware, together with a few other engineers, I was not the only one by a long shot, that the engineering profession in San Francisco was lily white. There were a sprinkling of Asians, but no blacks. And at that time, the federal government ran a program of encouraging of providing money for training of disadvantaged people. It was administered by the Urban League, and I was able to, myself and a few colleagues got together and formed eventually a non-profit corporation. It's called the Engineering Society's Committee for Manpower Training, and we used that money to form consortiums of small companies to train disadvantaged minority people in the engineering field, and getting reimbursement from the federal government for part of this. This is still active today, and I'm still a director, although I'm not very active in it now. I was president for a while, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that tremendously. I think, in a way, America's been very good, good to me, and I'm sort of paying it back.
Hear the children crying.
One love.
Hear the children crying.
One heart.
Saying, give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let them all pass all their dirty remarks.
One love.
There is one question I'd really love to ask. Is there a place for the hopeless sinners who has hurt all mankind? Just a Savior's own belief. One